everybody watches Love Island and thinks it's great. That is just fucking morons watching fucking morons being fucking moronic. We're turning into nations of useful idiots, brainwashed idiots who are self-obsessed.
Today's guest is Richard Grannon.
Is none other than Mr. Richard Grannon.
Richard Grannon.
Richard Grannon.
Richard Grannon.
Richard Grannon.
An author and YouTuber, Richard Grannon.
Got a background in psychology and pivoted specifically in narcissism.
Richard Grannon, who is the lead expert in psychological narcissism.
I narcissistically agree that I'm the lead expert.
How can you tell if your partner's a narcissist?
There are 9 annoying things that narcissists do. Clinically, I can see that the patient is doing 5 of the 9. Then they have clinically diagnosable narcissistic personality disorder. My claim for the personality disorder is it is psychotic, it is delusional, and it's disassociative. Everything that is of this world will corrupt you. It's there to tempt you, it's there to draw you in. We have, as a species, we hold narcissism inside of us. And so we do the things that please us. And we make technology please us. And so narcissism grows. We didn't evolve for Uber Eats, 4K streaming weird porn. You just sit around wanking all day and eating crap food. We need challenge, we need victory, we need courage. Earned dopamine.
How do you spot a narcissist on a first date?
If she doesn't ask you a single question about you or your life, and she's mainly concerned with herself, either accept that that's what you're dealing with and take it for what it is, or walk away. For a young woman, I would say be very, very careful of guys who lavish a huge amount of attention on you. So you'll hear in the narcissism space online, they'll say there's a love bombing phase. It's for women. I've never been fucking love bombed in my life.
So if someone's had a toxic ex, why do they then find a normal relationship quite boring?
Everything you do a lot of, you end up craving. So if you're in an abusive relationship where you're constantly solving problems and you're constantly putting out fires, and we leave you there for 3 years, and then we just go, oh, you're with another bird now, and she's not got any problems, everything's fine. You'll be like, it's awful quiet. Awful quiet in here.
What are some of the signs that you should end a relationship?
Fucking hell, lad. Signs that you should end a relationship. Look, I would say...
So, welcome back to the #1 podcast here in Liverpool. We're joined by a very special guest named Richard Grannon, who is the lead expert in psychological narcissism. So, Richard, just give us a bit of a background of who you are, where you're from.
I narcissistically agree that I'm the lead expert
exactly.
in the world. You want my background?
Yeah, so give us a bit of a background of who you are and where you're from.
So I'm from Bebington in the Wirral. Lovely, lovely Bebington. And I moved to Portugal when I was a kid with my family. And then when I was sent back to the UK, my family stayed in Portugal, and then I was in like boarding school, private boarding school for a few years. And then I had an interest in psychology, went and studied at a university, came out of university, graduated, and within 2 months actually got a job using my psychology degree.
That's very rare, to be fair.
Well, I might not be the world's leading expert on narcissism, but I am part of a very, very small percentage of human beings who graduate with a degree in psychology and then use it. And it was literally within a couple of months down in Runcorn, working for a satellite arm related to the probation service. So my job as a 21-year-old was to deliver a 10-week-long course to criminals who were criminals because of drug addiction on why they shouldn't take drugs or do crimes. And if they came once a week and signed in, they wouldn't go to prison. So the deal was like, we've got your bed made for you. We want to put you in a prison cell, but if you go to this course, we won't let you in. It was a fucking nightmare for me. I was like, these were like hardened, some of the crackheads.
Hard criminals, yeah.
Hard criminals, crackheads, drug dealers. And they're sat there looking at me like that. Yeah, go on, lad, give us the course. We don't want to go to prison. It was amazing how hard the organisation I was working for worked to keep these men out of prison.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as outsiders, we watch TV, we think someone does a crime, police catches criminal, and the court says naughty person going to prison. But actually, prison's quite expensive, and they'd rather keep them
And
out.
trying to get them out at all costs.
Exactly. And so I would teach amazing, powerful psychological insights like when you think about taking heroin, before you inject, think of the consequences. And that's literally what I was trying to teach them. So I didn't really enjoy that. And what did I do? I did different things. I traveled around. I left that because it was just doing my head in. It's the only time I've worked directly for a government agency, and I said it will be the last. I'll never do this again. It's so divorced from reality. Nothing has anything to do with what they say it's for. So they'll be like, we are for the reformation of criminals, let's say. They said that, which they didn't, but that's ostensibly what it was all about. And it wasn't. It was about budgets, it was about numbers, it was about reports, and it was about seeming to do a job so that people could maintain their comfy positions. And they were comfy. It was well paid. So I left that, drifted around a bit, was a DJ in Greece, worked as a little bit as a PT. And then, I came back to Liverpool and I was working down the other side towards Otterspool in a customer services unit in an office. And they put me on a desk with two lads who were on the door. One of them was a bodybuilder. The other one was just an absolute psycho. And we didn't do any work. We just sat there all day telling fight stories. Now, I'd always been interested in martial arts. And they were like, oh, that doesn't work. That's a load of shite, that. And they were big boys. And I was like, oh, come down to the gym on Saturday and I'll show you some stuff. So I started showing them some stuff, and there was a little group that developed, and then they were like, oh, you should go on the door. And I was like, oh, I don't think my mum would like that very much, but I did. I went on the door for a while. And then off the back of that for a few years, I was doing door work. I was teaching self-defense. I was an area manager for a local security company doing static site security. They did up all the schools around Liverpool and around North Wales and the Wirral, and it's a contract. I'm talking years ago. It's like 2008. This Jarvis did up all the schools around here, and I was the area manager for that job. So I just did this and that. Used to do house sitting, dog sitting. Before all this, my school, which is Birkenhead Boys' School in the Wirral, was good. It's a good private school. They'd actually put me forward for Oxford because they said I was dead clever.
That's not true.
I didn't understand the politics. So there was I won't name the house in Oxford. We didn't have the word woke in 1996, or I wasn't using it. Or if anybody used it, it would have been the original woke, which was black people talking about systemic racism in America, which is the original and proper use of the term woke. You're either awake to that or you're not, before it was hijacked. Ironically, mainly by white people. And so whatever that would have been like ultra politically correct. So there's different, you're not selected by Oxford, you're selected by the house.
Right, okay.
My best friend in the year above me, who was a really good linguist, he applied to a house in Oxford, and he happened to be gay and black. And he got into that house. My other best friend in the year above me was wheelchair bound with MS, and he applied to this house I won't name, and he got in. So I went, I'll apply to the same house and hang out with my mates. And you can't do it.
Yeah.
You
Didn't fit the DEI.
You've got to fit and this is, so people think the woke movement and DEI agendas is new. It was well in swing in 1996. It was in full swing. And plus I was a little bit arrogant because I was like, I want to do psychology and philosophy, but I was a linguist. So my teachers were saying, you should lean on, because I'd lived in Portugal and then I could speak Spanish because Spanish is similar to Portuguese. They were like, do Portuguese and Spanish. You're saying you want to do intelligence work. At that time when I was a kid, I said, oh, I want to be an MI5. And they said, go and do that. Go and do Portuguese. If you've done Portuguese and Spanish at Oxford or Cambridge, you've got a way better chance of getting into MI5 they'll teach you, the MI5 will then teach you Arabic. That's the course. And I was like, no, I want to do, I was a bit hard-headed, a bit naive, and basically didn't get in. But the reason I'm telling you that story is because when I was on the door, not far from here on Dale Street, at a place called the Living Room, one of my old teachers saw me on the door and he went fucking nuts. He went absolutely berserk. So, what are you doing with your life? Why are you here? And I was like, don't be cheeky, you cunt, I'll chin you. But that was like, I had an opportunity and I just kind of spewed it, basically. And then I was doing nightclub security for years, let's say like a manager for a static security firm. Was introduced to a world of cocaine and violence and loose women of ill repute.
All sorts.
And so that went on for a while. Got myself into trouble, as everybody does in that world. Eventually decided that I didn't want to be a gangster. Didn't feel like a gangster. I decided I was just being a silly boy. So when I was under pressure, I was like, when it got serious, I was like, I actually don't really want any part of this. So I stopped doing door work, worked as a taxi driver for a while. And then one of my mates, one of my father's friends got a hold of me and said, I'm working in schools, inspiring teenagers with behavioural problems. Do you want to do that? And I said, work with teenagers? And he said, yeah. I was like, no, I fucking don't. I fucking hate teenagers. No, that sounds like a dreadful idea. He convinced me to give it a go. I tried it 2 or 3 times. So I don't have a PGCE. We weren't teachers. We were just motivational speakers employed by an external agency. Well, actually, we were technically self-employed, hired by an external agency as contractors to go in. And it sucked, and I was really bad at it, and the kids hated me. And I was going to give it up. I think I'd done 3 of them. And then I just decided to give it a go. But instead of following their syllabus, I was like, I'm going to do my own, because nobody's watching me. It's just the kids and the teachers. And they only give feedback to my company through these really basic feedback forms that either say, yes, we enjoyed it, or no, we didn't.
Yeah.
So I was like, So I developed my own syllabus. And then I did enjoy it, and it did work. And I think inside of 2 years, I was a keynote. 2 years of beginning, I was a keynote speaker at the National Education Conference. So I'd done really. I'd gone from just being a lunatic on the door, snorting coke and being a loser, to actually causing a bit of an effect inside the education system, which was great.
And what kind of things were you talking about? Were you talking about like your reformation, or?
So I worked. So I was pretty good with the psychology. Like I've always had a pretty good understanding of psychology. So I worked backwards from where the kids were at, and I was like, okay, what did I really want to be taught about when I was at school, and what do I think these kids need? And most adolescents aren't primarily concerned with the gross national product of Guatemala, though they may need to learn that because of the completely just mind-numbingly stupid syllabuses that we've pulled out of our arses that are meaningless, which then became a problem later on because I kept saying that to people, and the education department didn't enjoy that at all. So I was like, what do these kids need? Well, they need impulse control, and they need emotional regulation, and they need emotional literacy, and they're very concerned with being cool and being accepted and their social status. So then I was like, do you want to learn the secrets of psychology that is going to make you more popular and is going to make you more able to concentrate and make your life easier? And they're like, yeah, that sounds, I'm going to teach you self-hypnosis. I'm going to teach you meditation. And I'd have like 5 hours with them. And that was what I was doing with them. That's what I was actually teaching them. And then the teachers who were watching, they loved it, because you'd have kids who would be screaming and shouting and going berserk, and I could funnel them into a space where I'd be like, I'd tell them a story like the ancient samurai were warriors, and they would fight with these 3-foot-long razor-sharp swords. Every micro decision they made is life or death. One cut with this, medieval Japan, you're dead. the system that they chose to be able to concentrate, to survive, was called Zen meditation. Would you like to know about that? Yeah, that's cool. So I would do that with
Like
them.
a reverse psychology.
Basically like incentivizing the learning. That goes on for a while. Then another government agency. I do love these government agencies. Fuck them. I'll name them. They're called Aim Higher. I wasn't going to name them, but fuck them because seriously, fuck them. Liars, degenerates. They got a hold of me. They headhunted me and they said, this is what we want you to do. Because I was like, this is my syllabus. I want to promote my syllabus. The kids love it. I'd teach the teachers how to deliver it. I'd got to the point where we'd have parent, teacher, children events. And it was going great. I was like, I'm the future of education. I fixed it. And the education department went, oh, this guy's a charismatic speaker. Let's get him to go into the schools and tell the kids that the first thing all of them should be doing, aim higher, is sign up to university. And I was like, I'm not telling them that. And they said, but if they go to university, they'll be more employable. And I said, that's already I was the last wave, honestly. Like, I started university in 96, got out in 99, and I've skipped parts of the story, but basically I got 5 different graduate fast track jobs inside of 2 years. And that wasn't because I'm a brilliant candidate and brilliant in interviews. There just was fewer graduates and more opportunity. And
Now it's reversed.
Now it's reversed. You young chaps will know it just doesn't fucking work. Like, every fucker's got a degree now. It doesn't mean anything, but it's very hard for your degree to mean something.
Yeah, it's diluted now, isn't it?
Very, very diluted. And they wanted me to, that dilution process was inevitable, but they wanted me to be a catalyst in it. And I said, no.
Yeah.
Tell them that they're going to be more employed. And I was like, that's not true. It's just not true that if people, it's not for everyone. Not everyone should go to university. A very, very small proportion of general population are academics who care and want to obsess over ideas. No, it should be an elite, but it was a money-making scheme, and it was to get people into debt. It was to get as many kids as possible so they start their lives in indentured servitude by owing, 50, 60,000 and up to the student loans company, which is owned by the British government. It's like, no, you're just trying to get a bunch of kids into debt to the British government. When I did it, we still had grants. I managed to do it with only, I think, £8,000 worth of debt. You just can't.
Only.
It's just not possible, is it?
Yeah.
It's just not. What do most people come out with now in terms of
the
debt?
standard is 27, then there's interest on top of that.
Interest with every year that goes by that you don't
So
pay.
by the time you pay it off, like you're about 50. You get stricken off when you're about 60 or something like that, 50, 60. But
Yeah.
you're basically paying it off. I think I've got a master's degree. Mine's like over 40.
Yours, and that's normal.
Yeah, very normal.
I know somebody. So, what is she? She's my. I don't know how it works in families. She's not my sister. She's not my sister-in-law. She's my stepfather's daughter. So it's my stepsister. She has a PhD. I'm pretty sure it's more than 40. It's a good chunk of change for her to come out with a degree that nobody's like, here's 80,000 a year because of your expertise in this thing. She just got funneled through a system, and she has a PhD in a good subject and everything. But no one cares. There's no job for that. It's not like it drives me mad. Anyway, so I said no, I'm not doing that. And then that was a little black mark against my name. And then I started saying, what's education for? What are we doing? Like, what are we designing? Do you want me to give you the system that creates entrepreneurs? Do you want happy human beings? Do you want factory workers? You ask anyone on any syllabus, anywhere in this country, at any level of education, what the education system is for, you will not get a clear response because there isn't one. Our education system is a mutant mess of different periods of history for different purposes. It's not useless. Like, people should learn maths, they should learn English, but there's an awful lot of wastage and an awful lot of kids fall through the cracks because we've got this one-size-fits-all what's education? You sit down and you sit still, and then some utterly boring fucker who is totally depressed and hates their life mumbles through the most boring course imaginable. And I started saying that to the parents. I was like, you try and get into your kids' schools and see if they'll let you sit in one of the classes. You see if you can stand it. These kids have behavioral issues, or you're boring. It's one of the two, or you're so fucking boring. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't do a day. So you'd sit there in the classes and these the subject matter, it's just, it's like, it was awful. It wasn't like that for me because I was in private school education and I didn't know how privileged I was until I went into state school, and it's night and day. So there wasn't that much of a change in culture. I left at private school age 18, and that's really all I'd known as private schools. And then at age 25, I was in some private, but mainly state. And I was like, what the fuck is that? We sat in silence in private school.
Yeah.
Teacher walked in, we stood up in silence. We sat, they were just the master of everything. In state school, it was just
fucking free for all.
Free for all, total chaos. So that then, to keep it short, I then moved on. I found I was a good public speaker. I wanted to have my own online business, so I started teaching self-defense online. That went very, very well, and then that slowly metamorphosized into talking about narcissism. So obviously in self-defense, you're talking about psychological and physical predators, usually psychopaths, and that morphed into me talking about psychological predators, narcissists.
Because the word narcissist is a term that's thrown around so loosely these days, but what is a narcissist?
Anybody who disappoints you or doesn't give you exactly what you want straight away. If anyone doesn't text you back, that's a narcissist. Everyone. They're just all... Anyone who doesn't give you what you want instantly is a narcissist. It's become a slur. So in mainstream usage, it's essentially now meaningless. Clinically, it's a pathology that is a defense against reality that depends in its core on a delusional sense of self. So the narcissist is an actor in their own life in a certain sense. I believe it's a branch of psychopathy. I don't think it's separate psychopathy. I think it's psychopathy, but with a high dependence on believing that I am very unique and very special, and that I'm in a movie and I'm the leading character in the movie.
Right.
That's me. That's who I am. All of you, everyone else, you're just bit players. You're here to make me look good. You make me look good or you get thrown off set.
So is narcissism a mental health issue, or is it more of a personality trait then?
So within psychology, that's a political hot potato. I think it's a mental health issue. I think I don't think there's a clear divide. To be honest, I don't think we can say that's a mental health issue and this is a personality style.
So it's more in the grey, a bit of both.
If somebody has the personality disorder, then that's permanent, pervasive, and personal. You put them on a desert island, they're a narcissist on a desert island. If it's culturally induced and it's just the way people are learning to be, that's still a mental health issue because it's delusional and grandiose, but it's fixable. That's much more fixable. So the thick end of the wedge of narcissism that you see today will be fixed when I take over this country as a dictator and take everybody's fucking phones off them. And I'll be like, and the TVs. I'll be like, at night, you can talk to each other. Can we do anything else? No. You could just make fires and sit around them and talk to each other. And that would resolve 80 to 90% of so-called mental health issues. So
what you're saying is narcissism is almost expedited by external influence?
It's 100%. That's called a culture-bound syndrome. Like narcissism and psychopathy has always existed, but not like this and not at this scale. we have a culture that, the very foundations of our culture are narcissistic and psychopathic. And you could argue this is where it's can be a political hot potato, can be a bit controversial. You could argue that behaving narcissistically is, in psychological terms, adaptive to this culture. You should be self-centered because the culture is rewarding you for being self-centered.
Yeah.
You should be in love with the grandiose version of yourself because the culture demands that you're in love with the grandiose version of yourself. Why? Economics. This is rampant consumer capitalism. We don't need you. We don't want you. We're not interested in you buying what you need. We want you to buy things that you want. That's the difference between just normal capitalism and consumer capitalism. How do we do that? We gape your wants. We distort and magnify what you want. That's much easier to do if you're a grandiose, delusional narcissist. It's, it's easier to provoke you, to antagonize you along political lines or whatever else if you are a grandiose, delusional narcissist. We're turning into nations of useful idiots, brainwashed idiots who are self-obsessed. And everybody watches Love Island and thinks it's great. And I'm like, this is surely the end times, because that is just fucking morons watching fucking morons being fucking moronic. And then my friends are going, have you seen Love Island? I was like, I would rather commit seppuku in the fucking town square than have the dishonor of having watched even 1 second of that shit. But that's what people love.
Yeah.
Because it's them. So what you're watching is pure, unadulterated, moronic narcissism that's being put on a pedestal narcissistically for people who are aspiring to be such fucking morons. They're like, oh, if only one day I could be as fucking dumb as you. And that's our culture. That's how we live.
What are some of the key things that you've noticed to create narcissism?
Rampant materialism. I mean, narcissism. So there's a cluster in the American definitions of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. They cluster. They have constellations of personality disorders, and they call this cluster B. And it's psychopathy, now known as antisocial personality disorder, because psychologists will never lose the opportunity to make something more complicated than it needs to be. It's psychopathy. Oh, no, it's antisocial personality. Oh, whatever. Borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. And those things are probably all part of the same problem, but with just slightly different manifestations. And as you look at them and you see these things are all dependent on the reactions of other people. Right. So it's a very, very reaction-based. It's all, with the exception of psychopathy, it's all very look at me. Psychopathy just uses people as objects. So your classic psychopath would be like, can I say graphic stuff here?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to kill 6 people, and this has happened, and then I'm going to keep them in my house, and I'm going to pick them up, and I'm going to talk to them. And it's like, that's extreme psychopathy.
So you're just using them for short-term gain?
It's just a person is a thing to be exploited. So that's the core of all of the cluster B, I would claim. And then it becomes more vain or more about how can I exploit people so that I get more of what I want, more adulation or
like control.
Else. It's very much about power. It's very much a power-seeking cluster of personality disorders. Yeah.
So if you're looking at a lot of people, and one thing I've heard a lot of people say, especially on the podcast, is they refer to the partners as narcissists. So how can you tell?
They don't say they go narcissist.
Narcissist.
My partner's a narcissist. He bought me the wrong colour Lamborghini, bastard. No, sorry. I'm sure some of them are genuinely the victims of narcissistic abuse.
So how can you tell if your partner's a narcissist?
I mean, there is the diagnostic criteria, but unfortunately it's very weak. And that's not just me saying it. The American Psychiatric Association has known that it's very weak for a quarter of a century now. Still hasn't changed.
Something that's been diluted over time as well.
Well, I don't know why. I don't really know why this happened. So you said, is it a mental health issue? And I said, oh, it's a bit tricky that. So when the Bible of diagnosis, if we accept the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual as being the Bible of diagnosis, what they did was they said there are 9 annoying things that narcissists do. If clinically I can see that the patient is doing 5 of the 9, then they have clinically diagnosable narcissistic personality disorder. These 9 things are equally weighted. And it's things like a haughty demeanor.
What does that mean? Haughty.
Quite.
Right, okay.
Haughty demeanor. What the fuck is a haughty demeanor? It means arrogance. You're just
Right.
being arrogant.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it say that? Because a psychologist will never lose the opportunity to overcomplicate something that should remain
To make
simple.
it overly subjective.
Overly, well,
Gay.
yeah, and this is one of the problems. Is all they're doing is describing annoying behaviors that I can see, and that are irritating. They're entitled, they lie, they're exploitative, they don't think the rules apply to them. Blah blah. You've got 9 things. That tells me literally nothing about the internal experience of the narcissist. And they don't look for it. They don't look for it. So I'm like, I can't think of another mental health issue where the diagnostic criteria are a series of irritating things that you're doing. That's not how we do ADHD. That's not how we do depression. In depression, it would be something like the client feels or the client thinks. This is none of that. This is just, these are the ways in which this fucking patient is irritating me. And it's equally weighted. An equally weighted list is not good enough. So that's how it's defined in the clinical literature. What I would suggest, I only have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm not a doctor of psychology, no master's, no PhD. But I've had my head buried in this subject professionally for 13 years now. And because you'll get criticism online. This guy's not a psychologist. It's cool. Well, actually, in the UK, you can say I'm a psychologist because it's not protected. I answer to the BPS, not to you Americans. But let's not provoke. I have American friends who are psychologists. I don't want to provoke my friends. What I would suggest is that we look and say, is this person very, very attached to a grandiose, delusional version of themselves and of their life, which if you challenge, they get really pissy, really fucking pissy. And if you point out where they're being abusive or manipulative or nasty, they reverse it and put it back onto you.
They're like a deflection.
So the core of narcissism is deflection. The whole thing is like, how do I keep reality out? So it's a shield, and on the shield is a mirror. So I do whatever I want to you, and then when you say I'm doing that to you, it goes back to you again. It's out. It's an infantile no of reality. So it's rooted. I said it's rooted in a false self. But more properly, even before the false self, is the denial. Just reality isn't what it is. It's what I say it is.
Who would you say is more likely to be a narcissist, men or women?
There's no gender difference in narcissism. Again, it's a good question. Points of controversy. So the DSM definition of the grandiose narcissist is fixated around a grandiose type of narcissist. So that would typically be more masculine. So it's either going to be a very masculine woman or a man who's going to be that. What's less understood and what is conflated is borderline. So typically men get the narcissism diagnosis, women get the borderline diagnosis, but borderline personality disorder is the most overdiagnosed and misdiagnosed of all the personality disorders. Why? Because clinicians are people and they have sexism. Oh, those animals, how could they? Yeah, they have gender ideas about how people behave. And the research is in. It's men and women, male and female clinicians look at the behavior of male and female clients and they categorize it based on their gender perceptions, which psychology is like, oh my God, don't tell anyone that. I'm like, just tell people.
Can you give us an example of that?
A man who is highly narcissistic comes in to see me and I'm a man, and he doesn't want to be vulnerable in front of me. So he adopts a swaggering attitude and he's boastful. And he's like, you see, I've literally had clients like this. The thing about me, Rich, what you got to understand is I'm just a straight shooter.
So they're all American.
Most of my clients are American. America has a terrible problem. terrible. We do too, but a terrible problem.
It's bleeding over, isn't it?
Oh, it always does. And they'll be like, this is how much money I've made. This is how many women I've slept with. This is what, and then there's all of this like, me, I did this. And then eventually you'll say, our time is limited here. How can I help you? Because you didn't pay me. I'm not cheap. So you didn't pay me this money to list your achievements. And they will be afraid of being vulnerable in front of a man. And they want to let you know that they're very, very special. So that's a way in which it can show up in a gendered way. And I'm part of the gendered context because I'm a man. So that's a man talking to a man, and he shows up in that way. A woman shows up, and she's the biggest victim in the room. Nobody's ever suffered the way that she suffered. She starts to tell her story and she immediately starts crying. She's super vulnerable. And you go, oh, okay. So we're talking about like gendered expressions of mental health issues. If they at their core are both attached to a grandiose delusional version of who they are, that allows them to gather power from the environment, they both have narcissistic personality disorder. But me as a clinician, using my gendered view of reality, which we all have categories, we all have sexism inside of us, because men and women are different. You might have to delete this.
You can't be saying
You
that.
might have to delete this
You're
whole
trying to
thing
get me
now.
cancelled.
You're fucked now. And so that's how it could show up. Now, it can switch. Like I said, you could have a very aggressive, masculinized woman. I do work in Eastern Europe quite a lot, and I see that show up. And I don't need no man kind of a woman. She's disappointed with men. And so I even had a client say to me, I decided to be the man in my life that no other man could be. And I was like, oh, tell me more about that. How's that going to work? So then you get a lot of like, so people signal to each other. And the personality disorder spectrum we're talking about of cluster B, it's very much about signaling. So you can signal strength and people go, aha, narcissism, it's bullying, it's boastful. But actually when people are also hyper signaling weakness, if they're doing it to compel you to give them attention, that can also be narcissism. So we call this overt, classic, grandiose, and this one covert, fragile. And it's harder to see, and it's more damaging to the victim.
Right, interesting. So what are some of the other ways that, obviously, the differences between male narcissists and female narcissists? You've alluded to some there, but what are some of the other key differences, how they exhibit them? Let's say, like, from a classical point of view, like what's the average ways in which females exhibit narcissism, and what are the average ways where males exhibit
Are you asking
narcissism?
for the clinical consensus?
Give me your consensus.
A consensus of one?
Experience.
Of all my personalities. What do we think, guys?
13 years of experience.
Because I try to do I don't turn my back on the clinical consensus. And there isn't. So just so we're clear for people watching, there actually isn't a clinical consensus on this. And it's a very controversial topic. Even me saying borderline is overdiagnosed and misdiagnosed, it's incredibly controversial. And the implication within what I was saying is borderline, what clinicians call borderline, sometimes is covert narcissism. But there's no way for most clinicians have got a hope in hell
to detect it.
Yeah, they can't see the difference. It's very, very hard to see the difference. And that's because we don't accept in the consensus something called complex post-traumatic stress yet. This is technical stuff. It's probably not massively interesting, but there's a type of post-traumatic stress, a subtype called complex, and it's very important. It's critical to everybody's understanding of mental health, but it is not universally accepted yet, not in America. It's further forward in Europe. So the way I would say that the differences is it's context specific, because you might have a very feminine man or a gay man who is narcissistic, but he wants to do his narcissism with very ostentatious theatrical displays of vulnerability, because they're all looking for narcissistic supply, which is a neurotic drive for undue adulation and admiration. It's called narcissistic supply. If they don't get it, they become depressed. They become deleted. If they do get it, it's like they're high on drugs and they go into narcissistic elation.
So that's like their fuel.
That's the fuel.
Right.
If I have covert, fragile, or vulnerable, also known as neurotic narcissism, I want my narcissistic supply flavored with sympathy. I want your pity. I want you to pity me. And that's how I take control over you. So there is probably a statistical generalized way of saying men do it like this and women do it like that. And I'm not being politically correct when I say I don't want to say that. I don't care about being politically correct. I don't want to confuse people. So I would say it like this, the yin-yang model. The yang is the masculine archetype, and it's forward moving, and it's in the light. It is seen. That's what we would refer to as classic grandiose narcissism. Do as I say because I'm very important. Do as I say or else. Bullies, basically. The yin is in the dark and pulls backwards and in. Oh, you're not going to do as I say? No, it's fine. You don't. I mean, everybody just leaves me in the end. So I'm going to fucking guilt trip you. That's why I say it's worse. That's my impression of my ex-girlfriend.
I got it straight away. I fucking got it straight away.
Do whatever you want. I knew that you would hate me in the end, just like my father did. Yeah. So the classic grandiose is like beating you over the head with to be Freudian for a second, because I know you enjoy Freud. The phallic, do as I say or else, so like dicking you over the head.
Yeah.
And the yin has to do something much more corrosive, because I don't actually have power. I have to disempower you. So this one, I just need a bigger stick. Yeah. And if you won't listen to me, I just need to go and get an operation and get my stick bigger and come back until you do it. In the other scenario, I have to come for you. You're confident, are you? Ooh, I better just dial that down a little bit. It's harder to see and it does more damage to the target. Men do this and women do this. Same-sex relationships, this can play out. Again, I'm not saying that to be politically correct. I'm saying it so that people watching have a better way of filtering behavior they could be looking at.
So I guess in layman's terms, one's like a physical presence or power, and then one's like a manipulation.
In layman's terms, it would be one is something you can see and report. You could record the person, right, and they're basically going to be saying, I'm huge, I'm the best, I'm the biggest, I'm the cleverest, and you do as I say or I'm going to fuck you up. And the other one, you can't really record them saying anything because they're not really threatening you.
Like an inference.
It's all done through inference, pauses, meta-communication, pulling
emotions,
faces, long silences. It's called ambient abuse. Right. And yes, okay, so I will grant this. Obviously, women learn to do that earlier than men. Men can learn it, but we have greater upper body strength and are higher in testosterone, so we're more likely, statistically, to use more aggressive tactics. Women are smaller, and they have to deal with men, and they have to find a way to control this creature that can kill them, so they have to be more slippery and smart.
Devious.
And, devious, yeah, quite frankly.
Can you tell just by looking at someone?
No.
Whether they're narcissists?
No, kind of fuck. all my ex-girlfriends. I mean, if somebody said to me the other day, "You're so good at this. Surely you could see right through them." I'm like, I just see a pretty face and big boobs, and that's it. I'm as stupid as the next man. I'm a total dummy. I'm a total dummy.
What has been some of your experiences of narcissism?
I mean, it's just like every relationship. I mean, no, that's not true. That's not true. I've been in 2 relationships where the person would have had two sexual romantic relationships where the person would have had multiple clinical diagnoses of multiple mental health issues, of which narcissism would have been one, which is normal. So narcissism is very rarely diagnosed on its own.
Yeah.
It usually comes with like
A bunch of shit.
bunch of stuff like mood disorders, anxiety disorders, alcoholism, addiction, blah, 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 so on. So it usually comes with a lot of stuff. My 2 experiences, I think a clinician would have had to have looked at the explosive rage and the psychosis. I mean, they weren't psychotic all the time, but if they were triggered, they really believed things that were just not true. That there was just, stop smiling. Why are you laughing at my pain here?
I'm wondering what some of the triggers were. What were the triggers? I already know the answer, I think.
Well, so the narcissistic personality, whether it's covert or overt, is a totalitarian tyrant, and it was me just saying no. All I had to do was say no, and there would just be fucking World War III. Like they'd come for my soul because I'd say, I don't think that's the right way to behave as an adult, or you're just being rude. You're just being mannerless right now. And it would be a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. So resistance was the trigger. Any form of resistance is a trigger.
And what were some of the delusions that then got confirmed by them sort of triggers?
Oh my God. It's a long time ago, and nobody knows the person, and they wouldn't be able to figure it out. There was this happened in the first 2 weeks of the relationship. I really, really liked this girl, and we were watching TV. In 2 weeks, you don't know a person, and she'd had a drink, and it was 1 glass of white wine. So I was like, well, she's not drunk. And it's 1 glass of white wine. Like it can't. So I wasn't primed. I hadn't learned that this girl couldn't have even a mouthful of alcohol. She drunk a glass of white wine. We're watching TV. We're watching what she wants to watch, which was like a science show. And I was like, oh, this is great. She's really pretty and she's really clever as well. This is great. I love it. And then an advert came on, and there was like women in bikinis in the advert. And then she just turns and she looks at me and she's like, why are you looking at that? I said, because the TV's right there and we're both watching it. What do you want me to do? Astaghfirullah, I can't believe I've seen boobs. So what do you want me to do? And she was like, you shouldn't be looking at that. I was like, but you put this on. I'm not responsible for what the advertising is. And then when things got delusional, she was standing over me with an empty glass of wine at this point, screaming at me. And she was calling me her ex-boyfriend's name. And she shouldn't laugh. So the backstory, this poor human being didn't need a boyfriend. She really needed therapy, like extensive therapy. So what had happened before she was with me is she was living in an environment that's off the southern coast of Italy doing science work, and her boyfriend was a professor, and the trainees who would come, because of the nature of the science work, were often young women. And it's very hot, so they're in bikinis, and apparently the guy was a perv, and he would like creep around as the professor, these young hot women in bikinis. That was I didn't learn that until 3 years later. I had no fucking clue what was going on. But she saw him.
Associated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if the emotional dysregulation is very high in a human being, the higher your emotional dysregulation, the more your perceptions warp. And so I became him. And she literally was shouting at me in his name. And I was like, at one point I said to her, do you know where you are right now? And she just kept on screaming. And she started taking, such a weird story. She wasn't completely dressed when we were watching TV anyway, because we'd been having sex before watching the science show, which was a great night for me. I was like, this is cool. It's like something about black holes or galaxies or something, and then we have a little wine, have sex, and watch the science show. Great. Then I'm in my bedroom, and what little clothing she has on, she's taking off while screaming at me.
While screaming the other guy's name.
So the guy's out, and I'm like, is this some weird sex ritual? We're about to do? Like, what's happening? And she started pushing me, and she was going, you're not listening to me. You're not listening. Listen to me when I talk to you. And she'd walked around me, and I had this little wicker basket for my laundry, and she pushed me. I'm 95 kilograms, and she's probably about 45. She pushed herself off me. She was naked, and she fell into the bin. So she was arse down with a wicker basket stuck on her. And that brought her back. That was what broke the pattern, because, well, I wasn't defensive then because I was laughing. So once I stopped being defensive, and I just
Snapped out of it.
I was pissed. Well, I wasn't pissed, but I'd had more wine than she'd had. So I was in shock, and it was so weird, everything that was happening. And then there's a wicker basket stuck on her arse, and so I just started laughing. And she came down, took a shower, came out, and was fine. And I was like, I think we should probably talk about what just happened there. And she was like, oh, don't make a big deal out of it.
Fuck it.
I was like, we just had this weird episode, and that kind of thing. It happened a few times where the same girl years later, when I found out what the triggers were and what was going on, and I'd say to her, like, there are going to be good-looking women in the environment. I can't promise you that I'm never going to look at a good-looking girl ever again, just so that you don't go into a violent rage. If you want to look at men, you can. You're a human being. She's a biologist. I'm like, why are we arguing about this? It's biology. It's science. You love science. This is what I couldn't. Like, she just couldn't tolerate that. And she'd gotten into an argument with me in her own mind in the living room after I'd gone to sleep. So it was 2:00.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So
I'm struggling. How long did you stick around?
Well,
This sounds like a long time
I'm a
ago.
very faithful and loyal. Winners don't quit, quitters don't win. That's my attitude. I was raised in martial arts. We don't quit. And also the arrogance of, like, oh, I have a background in psychology. I'm sure I can fix this.
Yeah, I'm sure I can fix it. The classic fix it statement.
So when we'd had a minor argument, I went to sleep at 12. She then was in the living room, obviously continuing to argue with me inside of her mind. And then at how dare you laugh? This is appalling. At 2:30 in the morning, I wake up to her standing over me, screaming at me, midway through the argument that she's been having with not me in the living room. And I said to her, because we'd been to relationship therapy and we'd really tried to deal with this, and I knew we would. I loved her. I was so sad. I remember saying, stop shouting. We were in Ireland at the time. Some of our neighbours have young kids. It's not fair. Go and sit in the living room, and I'll come through and talk to you. And it's a weird memory. I put on, like, a formal shirt, and I remember buttoning this shirt with, like, shaky fingers, and I was like, this is it. But I don't know why I picked it out. And then I put, like, trousers on to go into the living room and be like, listen here, darling. I'm afraid we are at the end of our road now. I'm not being screamed at in my sleep. And yeah, there was, in both the relationships, there'd be trigger moments where they would go into deeply delusional psychotic episodes where they were talking to people who weren't there, but I was the scapegoat for that repressed emotion that they couldn't release anywhere else. And so they release it on their intimate partner, the person who's showing them the most trust, the most loyalty, the most love. They're the ones who get it. It's funny, but it's from another point of view, it's completely tragic.
Tragic. Yeah, I was just about to say it's tragic.
Because it's a personality disorder of isolation, you know. And I've said now twice in my life, delivered a little speech at the end of the relationship. You had someone who was loyal. I would have continued to work through this with, but you've pushed me to a point. And I said to both of them, 5 years apart, I believe you're doing this deliberately. You can't stand to be loved. You can't stand the intimacy. You want me to do what I'm doing now, which is saying, I love you, but this is done. And I can, if you want me to, I can track all of the behaviors and everything you've done that have led to this point, which, just for your knowledge and for the people watching, that's considered a classically borderline thing to do. But I think it's a key component of covert narcissism.
That delusional association that she had where she thought that you were someone else, how common is that amongst narcissists? 'Cause that doesn't sound like a common thing, surely.
I don't. So I've had 2 romantic sexual relationships. I've had a business relationship with a diagnosed narcissist and a friendship with another clinically diagnosed narcissist. And the 2 guys I knew also would go into psychotic fits. So I don't know is my honest answer. I personally, and I would need to actually go out and do some proper academic research, and I'd need to get some money together to do it. At this point, I believe the main diagnostic criteria is wrong, because if somebody just has a narcissistic style, it's not that damaging, and talk therapy will work, and you can just say to them, you can't talk to people like that. You're being a prick. Stop it. And after 10 sessions of telling them that, they'll probably think, oh, no, maybe I'm being a bit of a prick. I don't have to be a prick. I can actually be nicer than this, and, you know, whatever. My claim at this point, after 13 years, is clinicians and people generally don't take it seriously enough. So when people come on here and say, my ex-girlfriend's a narcissist, my ex-boyfriend's a narcissist, I'm like, they're not. You're both highly narcissistic people who are in a power struggle. That's 90% of the complaints you get. It's neither of them has a personality disorder, but they're both very self-centered, and they're both doing relationships in a consumer capitalist way. They're like, how do I draw as much from you as I can? And they're both in a power struggle. And it feels narcissistic. Well, it is narcissistic, but there's no personality disorder. You just have 2 dopes who are spoiled by a culture that is in a particular place. My claim for the personality disorder is it is psychotic, it is delusional, and it's disassociative. So in my experience, they would forget, they'd lose time, they'd lose experiences. And they really sometimes they're gaslighting you, but sometimes it's clear that their memory has just got a hole in it. Because it makes sense if you think, look, here's a thought experiment. There's 10 million quid in this for you. There isn't. It's a thought experiment. Sorry. 10 million quid. For the next 2 years, I want you all day, every day, and we're going to spend a little bit of money to help you to do this. I want you to live a fantasy version of yourself in which you are perfect. We're going to hire actors to confirm it. Everybody in your life is going to tell you that you're brilliant, but you have to keep driving. You're sane, I presume. 2 years of telling yourself, I'm amazing, I'm the best, I'm wonderful, I'm brilliant. And then we recruit people like a little cult around you. How sane do you think you'd be after 2 years?
Yeah, it'd be ridiculous.
You'd be fucked. You would then need 2 years of therapy to get over that. These have been doing it since they're 3-4 years old, since their neuroplasticity was at its height. So my claim is, no, it's deeply, deeply dissociative, disassociating from reality.
Yeah.
Get it out. I don't like it. So then people say, oh, you know, therapy should help them. I'm like, the last thing they want is to come back to reality. And that's all therapy can do, is to bring us to truth. So
obviously that's a lot of negatives about narcissism, but
what are the great things about it?
Are there actually any benefits to narcissism?
In an evil society that we live in, yes. I mean, this is just an evil fucking culture that we've managed to create.
What are some of the evil benefits that the common people don't see as evil?
From being a narcissist?
From being a narcissist.
More sex, more material gain, more wealth, more fame, more power, you name it. Anything that the devil wants you to have, you can have if you're more of a prick. If you're more selfish, more narcissistic, less moral, more rigidly individualistic, more psychopathic, more Machiavellian, more sadistic, you go up the ladder. That's the proof of an evil culture. The people who are doing best in our culture are, generally speaking, the most narcissistic.
Yeah, that's interesting. So obviously you're talking about, I guess leaders in society. So you got like people like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, maybe Keir Starmer. Are any of them narcissists, would you say? I'm trying to get you cancelled.
Yeah, they're nuts. They're nutcases. You wouldn't want to spend. You wouldn't want to be dating somebody like that. You wouldn't want somebody like that to be your. Okay, you wouldn't be interested in dating them. You wouldn't want that as your boss. You wouldn't want to answer to a person like that. These people are sick. Who wants to run a country? Like, you should be afraid of doing that. If you run a country and you say the wrong thing once, or you fart at the wrong time in a conference, you can start a fucking war. These people are like, give the job to me. I know what I'm doing. How do you know what you're doing? I just do. I'm very, very clever. Based on what? It's insane. Nobody who wants to be a leader should be a leader. We should force people at gunpoint who don't want to be leaders. They should be made to be the leader. And you should say to them, listen, comrade, it's going to be a rough 18 months, but you're in charge for 18 months.
That's interesting. Have you seen Game of Thrones?
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting because when Bran becomes the leader of the Seven Kingdoms or the Five Kingdoms, whatever it is, he basically says he's the perfect leader because he doesn't want to do it.
Yes.
And when he chooses Tyrion to be his hand, that's exactly what he says to him. He says, you must be my hand. And he says, like, I've made all these mistakes, blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, it's because of the mistakes and because of the fact that you don't want it. That's why you're a good leader.
Yes.
So in order to be a good leader, do you have to be a narcissist, though?
I think narcissists make really bad leaders. But the only people in our culture who would want to lead are mentally deranged. Mostly. I mean, to me, the way I look at it is the game is completely rigged. It's a completely corrupt culture. It's a completely degenerate society. I think I've made that clear at this point. So I'm not a big fan. What are you leading and what for? What's your intention? What are your objectives? It doesn't make sense to me. With the exception of Ant Middleton becoming the mayor of London.
Yeah. So like I've done a lot of reading, and I've noticed the word power is used a lot in a lot of books. A lot, like, I don't know if you read the 48 Laws of Power, for example.
I tried.
And in books such as that, it sort of states that the world is derived on power. People seek power regardless of what they say.
Yeah.
And there's different ways in order to get power.
Yes, because that book is written by a degenerate and silly little man. But yes,
So is there a way to be successful without seeking power and therefore being a narcissist?
Well, power really is only power over others, I think.
Right.
I don't know of a different definition of power. I mean, unless we're talking about physical power. Like,
I know. I say like mainly as like a social construct. The
power over others. I'm successful. I have very little power over others, and I'm successful as an entrepreneur. I do what I want. I do the work that I want. I help people. I don't have power over others, and I'm not missing it. I'm not like, oh, if only I could force 100 people to do my bidding.
So I assume that you have people working for you. How do you have power over them without losing that without getting that sort of narcissistic reputation?
By being polite and by being kind and allowing room for consent and feedback and fucking paying people on time.
Yeah, but would you argue, like I'd say, but to play devil's advocate, a lot of those things, if you almost give things to people too nicely or too easily, they sort of lose that respect for you or that power for you. Have you ever had that?
No, I think these are interesting questions. I'm laughing because I was doing an interview yesterday in a group, And there seems to be this, it's very unfortunate. It was a guy your age, American, and he couldn't divorce the notion of, it wasn't power. They have this idea of being, it's a men's group, of being a good man and of being a sovereign, independent man who sets his own path. And this guy was like, that's narcissism. And I was saying, there's nothing narcissistic about you being independent, sovereign, and setting your own path. And he was like, but how do you not become narcissistic? Narcissism has a lot of intentionality behind it. You're not going to accidentally just be bimbling along and then go, oopsie, now I'm a cunt. It's not. It would be tough. There is something called context-specific narcissism, and I did remember feeling like the young pop star who used to be on Disney, Justin Bieber, years ago, when everybody was like, "Oh my God, what a piece of shit he's turned into because he pissed in a plant pot or something," and I was like, "You would 100% do that if you were a 17-year-old multi-millionaire. You would have killed someone by now. Get the fuck out of here." But I looked at context-specific narcissism. And I still think, I think you've really got to have that latently in. You've got to have some kind of cruelty in you or nastiness in you. I'm sure I've pissed my employees off, and I'm not like super nice to them all the time. But we do have a job to do.
Yeah.
And professionalism is required. There are deadlines, and they have to be met. And I fired people, so. They know there are rules and there are boundaries, but within those rules and boundaries, I don't need to dominate them, if that makes sense.
You're saying that like narcissism is intentional?
Oh,
always intentional.
It's intentional.
Never accidental.
Yes, maybe I should have said before, a key component of narcissism is it's compensatory. So it largely works like an inferiority complex. I don't feel very good about myself. So I must beat someone up psychologically so that I feel a little bit better about myself for a minute. And if you could be, so I probably am arrogant, but I don't have I feel good about myself. So I don't need to do that to people because I already feel good.
Would you say that narcissism is increasing or decreasing in
Oh,
society?
it's massively increasing. It's massively increasing.
And
yeah, we're doomed.
What are some of the main ways that it's increasing? I think we touched on them before a little bit.
The evidence, you mean, of?
Yeah, just the evidence and the things that are propagating it.
I mean, there is clinical research that's done by Jonathan Haidt and oh God, what is her name? See, I remembered the man's name and not the woman's name because I'm a misogynist. Oh God, her name. It'll come to me. And she's been doing the work on generational narcissism for years now. Somebody in the comments will know. Yes, I mean, we know from the research that people are becoming more clinically narcissistic. They definitely are becoming more clinically narcissistic. But I think if you look around, well, it's different because I'm older. I remember a different world, and the world has changed very, very rapidly. It is very materialistic now. It is very much about materialism and status anxiety and hierarchy climbing. And that's narcissism. That's narcissistic psychopathy.
Would you say that it's exponential? It's getting faster and faster.
Yes, it is. Yeah. We're reaching some sort of a singularity.
And what will happen, like, eventually? What's like the worst case scenario for if it carries on to the point?
The worst case scenario. Well, so the exponential growth of narcissism is absolutely tied to technological progress. Not that technological progress brings narcissism in and of itself. We have, as a species, we hold narcissism inside of us. And so we do the things that please us. And we make technology please us. And so narcissism grows.
Yeah.
So if there was a singularity in the worst case scenario, it would probably involve the escalating levels of narcissism combining with the way in which artificial intelligence can catalyze its development.
So would you say that ease is a very, very, very great threat to increases in narcissism? Like if things are
Hugely.
easy, like, you know.
Hugely.
Yeah.
We are a very poor evolutionary match as a species, as an animal, for ease, comfort, options, and the capacity to be selfish. We shouldn't have this capacity. So if by ease we mean the capacity to be selfish, then yes. We are evolved to live in interconnected tribal groups of 50 to 150 people, where everybody knows your name and you have a role. And I can't let you die because you have that unique bone setting skill that nobody else has. I fucking have to fight for you to stay alive because I have kids, and he can't die and he can't let me die. And we are stuck together. That's how we
Pack
evolve.
mentality.
It's a
So
pack mentality. We are as one, and it's not a choice. It's like it's life or death. That's how. I'm not saying that's good. Let's go back to it. I'm expressing from an engineering point of view, that is how we evolved. We didn't evolve for Uber Eats, 4K streaming, weird porn. And everybody's like, why am I so depressed? You just sit around wanking all day and eating crap food. You're not, we need challenge. We need victory. We need courage. Earned dopamine, not unearned dopamine.
You know, I couldn't agree more. It's like we need that like healthy adversity, don't we?
100%. 100%.
So obviously, when someone becomes a narcissist, obviously there's a lot of negativity to being a narcissist. Can someone recover from narcissism?
I would say if they have narcissistic personality disorder, where it's dissociative, psychotic, delusional, what some people would call malignant NPD, I would say the prognosis is very, very, very pessimistic now. But there is evidence that it affects parts of the brain that allow you to process empathy and consequence and how another person could feel. So maybe with the evolution of AI, maybe in the future, it could be dealt with. For people with highly narcissistic traits, yeah, therapy can help. We can sort them out, give them other options. Oh, I didn't say what the worst outcome could be. People just getting into pods and giving up on life. And so if the AI and the economy and the environment, and we were like, we need to reduce our carbon footprint, we really would like you to spend more time in your pod, please. What's in the pod? All the wanks. All the wank. You just wank. The pod just says wank up the side of it.
Wank pod.
Where's your dad? He's fucking in his wank pod again. Told him to do the garden, and I think people would just give up on real life. I think we are giving up on real life. The phones. This, if you could have it like sewn to your eyes, you would, and if you could just live there in wank world, which is just endless dopamine and endless light and entertainment and whatever you want, that's what people would choose. And that's a kind of a broad scale spiritual narcissism. So there's the singularity, is people continue on this path and they just go into their apartments and sit inside of a pod. And the government says, thank you, you're breathing less air. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix, isn't it? Like that.
So exactly like the Matrix, but my vision for the Matrix is there's no war with the machines. In my story of the Matrix, humanity all deliberately got into the machine.
Because it's comfortable.
It's great.
Yeah.
Real world sucks. Put me in the wank, man.
So I guess moving into the sort of like the dating, like how
Wank tank. I'm so sorry.
Wank tank, yeah.
It's childish. It's childish. The wank tank. Sorry.
we've won a name there. So I guess moving into the sort of the dating sphere in terms of
the stuff that's
narcissism.
definitely going to get me cancelled. Yes.
Why is it people fall for toxic partners?
They are sexy. They are sexy. I think it's worse for women. I think toxic men are more attractive to women. There's a greater vulnerability there, and I think it's a signaling issue, as I mentioned before. So you know there's a term called virtue signaling. You might not know it comes from biology,
Right. How so?
And actually, you can animals signal their virility,
Superiority.
their superiority, their capacity to breed, their fertility. There's an animal from South Africa, and it looks like an antelope. I think it's called a springbok, and it does a thing called spronking, which if you keep doing, you'll go blind, young man. Spronking, and it leaps up in the air straight up, and then the females check out how high he goes.
Oh, right. How high?
Degeneracy. Just how high he jumps. That's it.
Not everything else.
Just how high he jumps. For God's sake.
Oh, fucking hell.
That would be impressive. Look at that. That's a gusher. So animals signal to each other, and it's known in biology that animals will do false signals to fake how virile they are and to fake how fertile they are. So obviously, in evolutionary, as we're in this competition to throw our genes forward into the future, we as animals have learned to deliver false signals. And then there can be signal confusion. So I am a woman, you're a woman, we're in our early 20s, and we are fertile, and we may be telling ourselves, well, we don't want to have kids, not until we're in our 30s, but your body and your central nervous system is attracted to men who your evolutionary system is saying are virile. And what makes them attractive can be this false signal that is a confusion between toxicity and strength.
Right.
So a very strong man would probably be quite indifferent, but indifferent can also be like avoidant or frankly just cold and psychopathic. A weak man might be super attentive. Why is he being super attentive? Because he doesn't have access to a bunch of other females. Nobody's thinking this consciously. They're just like, oh, that guy's really hot. Like, why is he so hot? And you're like, he's actually not a very nice person. But that's what makes him hot. And I think it's that signaling for strength. For men, the signals for virility that we can get from women can often come from toxic places. So if a woman is being very, very sexually provocative, we like it. But what is the cause of her wanting to be sexually provocative? It could be that she's somewhere on the spectrum for narcissism or histrionic or borderline personality disorder. Histrionic particularly. Histrionics get very, very sexually provocative. These are, and it's usually women who are diagnosed with histrionic.
So what is that, histrionic?
It's a very theatrical attention. It's like bullying attention out of people.
Like attention seeking.
It's hugely attention seeking, typically, but not always. Often hypersexual, but not always.
So it's like an overcompensation.
All of this is.
Yeah.
All of it is overcompensatory. And so there are good reasons why toxic people are attractive. And I think the conversation should just be sort of kind and around this when people have it, because then it becomes men versus women and it all gets very defensive and people get in their trenches. And I think it should just be like, look, I've said this to female friends of mine. If I were you, I like women who act in a very overtly, aggressively, ostentatiously feminine way. So if I was a woman, I'd probably like that in a man. I had a friend of mine, she's from Serbia. She said, I started dating this guy. I said, yeah, so show me him. She goes, I'm so embarrassed. I really don't want you to see him because he's the typical Balkan gangster. And he drives a white BMW. He's got tattoos up to here. He's on steroids. And I was like, but if I were you, I would also find that attractive. Don't be ashamed of it. We were laughing about it. She showed me a picture of him. He was the typical Balkan gangster. And I was like, but I see from your point of view, that's hot. Like, he's looks like a dangerous psychopath. but the dangerous psychopath in our evolutionary barbaric history was safety. in the civilized world, he's actually dangerous.
Yeah.
He's the opposite. He's chaos. But in a world of chaos, that strong man is protection.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I think it's a signaling issue. So toxic people are sexy. Plus, toxic people know how to be provocative and manipulative, and they know when they're provoking. They know when they're winding people up and teasing them. But yes, it's a frustrating situation for conscientious men who are decent, because they'll be like, well, women don't want, or they'll get it into their heads, women don't want decency. Whereas I think if you take it on as a signaling issue, you can sort of take that morality out of it and go, okay, if it's a signaling issue within my own moral framework, can I signal strength in a way that she wants without doing some ridiculous performative dickhead thing or getting the same sleeve tattoo with the lion? And
So what do some of those things look like?
Just I don't want to give my best secrets away. I should charge for that. I can do it, but I don't really know how I do it. But I've spent a lot of time doing public speaking and a lot of time sitting with people and observing them psychologically. So I'm a good communicator. If I forget to do it, I can have a very pH neutral, what would you call that? Flavorless vanilla interaction with a woman.
And then that puts you in the friend zone.
And I know that I didn't make an impression. It's not that men, I think men your age have imbibed this very derivative, very contrived idea of like, I need to be a bad boy. So I told you, it was you I was telling, I used to work nightclub security, and I went back to nightclub security to help my friends in Wood Street a couple of years ago. And I'd not been in clubs for years because, my God, why would I go into a fucking club? And I was there for 6 hours. So I'm watching rooms full of kids trying to fuck, basically. Why else are they there, really? And every guy is a bad boy now. But then if every single male, let's say there's 50 men in a room, 50 males and 50 females. If every single one of the 50 males is trying to do his best impression of 50 Cent circa 2008, who's a bad boy? No one. That's the new baseline. Yeah. All you're doing now is you've come back to a new baseline. I think it's more in nature, men display to women. Males like mammals, birds. It's very common for males to display. And you must stand out. Standing out is important, and a display of strength is important. But then if a guy hears that, he might be like, oh, I should do like 10 jump clap push-ups in front of the girl I like. And that's not what I mean. It's more like social. It's a social strength. Social strength can be the way you carry yourself. It could be the way you approach her. It could be the thing you say. I don't get it right all the time, but like if it goes right, I can't teach it, because it's not like, oh, say this, and then when she does that, do that. I'm in a certain state.
Yeah.
I'm in a certain state, and it feels like a frame that you're operating from. This is the frame I'm operating from, and this is how we're going to do things. And I'm never rude. I'm never unfriendly. I don't do any of the negging stuff. I don't need to. Don't think it's necessary. But I'm present, and I'm here with you. Now, what is it that you have to say about yourself, young lady? And they usually just start laughing, because it's not about being scary. I think many men have misunderstood that. But if all you have is bland and you have a scary guy, you'll choose a scary guy, because you don't want bland, because women are the gateway to the future. They're the ones who are controlling what the future of the species look like. They can't have bland men replicating. So I'm really saying all of this to try and draw there's a lot of poison around this discussion, and there doesn't need to be. We're all just biological machines trying to throw our genes forward into the future. It's not.
Yeah. So if you could give your 18-year-old self advice, like say your 18-year-old self was about to approach a girl, what are the 3 things that you would tell that person that he must do for that interaction to go successfully?
I would say, I used to teach the kids in school this. God, if their parents only knew. No, they didn't know. The parents would watch. I would say if you are going to talk to somebody that you find attractive, whether you're a man or a woman, your state transmits. So go into a good state first. Make sure that you can control your state. Go into a good state first. If you want them to like you, it's probably important that they associate good feelings to the sight of your face and the sound of your voice. So make that important. And the third thing would be have a positive intent and give, don't take. So give positively, like add to the conversation, add to the scenario. Don't rush to take what you want or to try and find your way around to what you want. Just add something and offer it freely. And if I can add a fourth thing or a frame around that, let the person feel like you're perfectly happy to have the interaction end at any moment. Nobody wants to be sold a credit card or a fucking mortgage repayment, or nobody wants to be sold anything. But people do want to be seen and they do want to be heard. So you can offer presence, and you can offer presence without being pushy. You can offer presence without being like, give us your fucking Instagram. You could just be there and then observe the signals that you're observing. And then if you're present and you're working alive in the moment, you can go, okay, it's probably time for me to wander off.
Yeah,
now.
I think that last point is very important. And what was one thing that I've probably tried to do over the last few years is like make it seem as if it's not all that deep. You know, you might really like the girl, you might really want to get something from that, but the more you behave as if that's the truth, then the more she'll sort of see through that. Whereas if you act as if, you know, we're probably not going to see each other again, but have a nice night, she'll have that urge to get back to you or whatever. So then if you do reapproach you, then you know she'll then take that.
So that would go back to the thing I'm saying. It's when I say a signal of strength, it's a signal that you're in a strong position. So a guy who's not needy, this is the thing that guys get wrong about indifference. Indifference is not about cruelty or avoidance or being like, nah, fuck you, bitch. It's, I have a life, and it's not, I'm the sun. I'm the provider of life. I'm the warmth.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to draw, I'm not a moon. I'm not trying to pull something from you. It's all good. It's all like in this space, everything is fine. And maybe it's a weird thing to say and possibly sexist, but whatever. A man can't join a woman. A woman joins a man.
100%.
It's otherwise like I've seen people try and do it the other way. And maybe it works for them or whatever. And I don't take that. Everyone can do whatever the hell. I'm not a priest. I don't know how the world works. Do whatever you want. But for me, that's how it should be. Yeah. It should be. I'm here. If this is where safety and protection and fun and good stuff is, maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. But it cannot be me joining you.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like I did see something like that a long time ago, and it's something that resonated. So that's kind of the puncher and the settler debate, isn't it? Like, so like, are you familiar with that?
No.
So if you're punching in a relationship, then that means that your partner is, you know, better looking. You know,
punching up.
Punching up, exactly.
Yeah,
And then you've got the settler, the one who's like, you know, the one who's punching.
Right.
So do you think that every relationship requires a puncher and a settler?
I mean, I've certainly seen a lot of relationships where it looks like you've got people who are falling into that role. I don't know. I think it depends. It's a pretty deep philosophical avenue to go down. Look, if you've got people who are essentially in their hearts consumers, and they're essentially stuck at the age of adolescence, Jung called this the puer eternus, which means the eternal child. I believe he nicked it from Aleister Crowley, who said that we're entering the age of Horus, who is the sun. And it's a childlike age that we're in. Consumer capitalism breeds infantile, materialist, let's party, let's have fun, let's have pleasure. And then you don't have adults. Now, if you're looking at a puncher and a settler, maybe you're thinking of somebody in your family and they're in their 40s, ask first how developed the woman is, how developed the man is. Is that a man and a woman? Or is that really two 14-year-olds in a 44-year-old's body? Because these are, to be honest with you, that you're not inane, but the question is slightly inane. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
If two souls have come together and selected to be with each other for a time, what does punching up mean? What does settling mean? Punching up and settling only has meaning by looks, really. It's mainly about looks or wealth or something quite shallow. It has to be. It has to be shallow. There's a thing came up years ago where people were talking about Pierce Brosnan and his wife. I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh yeah, because she's lost her looks, hasn't it? Like, well, she's apparently.
She's gained a lot of weight. Yeah. She was a beautiful woman, and then she gained a lot of weight. And the discourse around that.
Yeah, no, I did see this.
From men and women, I was like, wow, we're fucking lost. These are, because all they're seeing is their body. And Pierce said, I love her. I love her at any size. And I think when I say the material, I'm talking like a crazy Gnostic hermit, like a mystic. This world, the stuff of this world is where all the evil is. All the good is in the spiritual, is in the world beyond. Narcissists hate religion. They hate the idea of God. You'll see religious narcissists, but they're just using it. They don't have a religious bone in their body because they have no humility. Everything that is of this world will corrupt you. It's there to tempt you. It's there to draw you in. Everything is about beyond. Who knows what happens between Pierce Brosnan and his wife? Who knows? Who could possibly know what that feels like for them? What that feels like for him subjectively? I don't know. For a start, I actually didn't think she personally looked that bad at the material level anyway. She'd gained weight, but she's still obviously a beautiful woman who's gained weight. But I don't know what's happening at the non-physical level for the two of them. Maybe she is the perfect partner and he wakes up and is grateful for her every single fucking day. It's us as outsiders going, yeah. You've settled, she's punching up, blah, blah. What is... Like that's
subjective.
And it's materialistic. It's hierarchical. It's a very hierarchical way of looking at things. And people do. And I'm not saying don't look at it. I'm saying look at it. Some people are punching up. Some people are settling. What's the template behind which that's happening? And how am I relating to that? How do I know what's going on?
Like
between these people?
It's super subjective because obviously men and women think very differently as well. So some men obviously they would go off looks, women would go off how that person makes me feel, how protection, provisions, whatever.
I think at first I think this is another aspect of it, and I think the ancients knew this and we've forgotten it. So we used to know it and we don't. As you get older and as you develop, everything becomes a little bit more androgynous, and your psychology becomes more androgynous, and it should. So you will find, if you look at the way, we're really off track here, but it could be interesting. If you look at the way women enjoy their sexuality, see, women enjoy their sexuality, men want sex.
Yeah.
But if a man learns to enjoy his sexuality the way a woman does, he can absorb something from her and it makes your sex life a lot better. Richard Grannon highly recommends developing that strategy. And similarly from women, they can take stuff from men, and they do. And that's and I think that was just the way it always was. It's only now we're not doing that. So there is an androgenizing. We do cross over. And so a man who's been with a woman for most of his natural adult life, he does love her in the way we classically say a woman would. He loves her for how she makes him feel now. And I think that's the natural order of things. We're supposed to do that. There was a time in ancient Greece, I'll just finish with this. We all know what a hermaphrodite is, but Hermes and Aphrodite were stuck together. Hermes was a magician, Aphrodite was a goddess of love, and as a punishment by some evil, callous goddess who was probably jealous of them together, she went, "Oh, you love each other, do you fuckers?" and banged them together, creating a different entity that's Aphrodite Hermes, and we call them hermaphrodites. When in ancient Greece people got married, as a blessing, you would give them a statue of Hermes Aphrodite. You'd give them a hermaphrodite. And that was a blessing. It wasn't taking the piss. It was like, this is good luck.
Like two have become one.
You will become one. You're now going to become one, and you will absorb positively from each other, and your life will be richer for it. So I'm very idealistic about love. However, I'm 47 and single, and I'm definitely not bitter.
So just going back to like the ex thing. So if someone's had a toxic ex, why do they then find a normal relationship quite boring?
It could go to childhood trauma. They might have had childhood trauma, and the way of knowing love from a primary caregiver could have been very dramatic and very abusive, and so their central nervous system set point has changed to drama and trauma. It can happen in adulthood through the relationship that you're reset, but it must be very, very traumatic to get reset. And then basically, your central nervous system starts craving it. Everything you do a lot of, you end up craving. So if you're in an abusive relationship where you're constantly solving problems and you're constantly putting out fires, and we leave you there for 3 years, and then we just go, oh, you're with another bird now, and she's not got any problems, everything's fine. You'll be like, it's awful quiet. It's awful quiet in here. What am I supposed? Because before, I was a fireman. I was doing something, I had a role, and every day and every week there's a new drama and something to fix. And it was exhausting and it was irritating, but it feeds into something primal within us.
Like a rewarding.
Yeah.
Would you say men and women view that very similarly?
I've seen both men and women play the savior role. Yeah, for sure. The core philosophy behind it might be different. Like men might sort of think, no, even women think that. So people just get it into their heads that like, this is my duty. Or so conscious level, this is my duty. Unconscious level, this is all I'm worth. I don't deserve peace. I don't deserve to just be loved for who I am. I can only be loved through constant acts of service provision.
So say like obviously drawing on what you said before about when you were with like the ex who had the, you know, the delusions of grandeur, let's call them.
Basket bottom.
What are some of the signs that you should end a relationship?
Could you put this clip in a capsule and send it back to 2009, please? Because it would really, really help me. Fucking hell. Fucking hell, lad. Signs that you should end a relationship. Look, I would say start right the way upstream. You must have basic respect for your partner. So if there's a consistent pattern of disrespect, leave. Just disrespect. Forget abuse. Forget don't wait for abuse. A consistent pattern of disrespect, which includes dismissal of your needs, the diminutization of your concerns. Listen, darling, I'm a little concerned. I really think we shouldn't. I'm not listening to that. Leave. Don't wait. Leave.
So it comes down to respect being the main thing that a relationship is built on.
Respect, my God. You know, if we don't have respect for each other in sexual relationships, business relationships, any relationship, we've nothing. We're like barnyard animals. I must respect that you are a separate human being with fears, with needs, with moods, with whatever. Like you're probably a mess like the rest of humanity. But that's okay. And I have to give you basic respect. And that's what I find in the modern relationships. Like you can't even get that.
Yeah. What are some of the other signs?
That you should leave.
So let's say they do respect you. Are there signs that would override?
I don't think anybody can be abusive if they respect their partner. I don't think so. I can't see. unless there's some very strange unconscious impulse that they learn from their parents or something there where they genuinely do respect their partner, but they can't help themselves, in which case maybe a therapeutic intervention should work. But don't stick around too long for therapy, right. I would say, with a partner, like, because it's not like, this is going to sound very, very cruel. It's none of my fucking business. Even as somebody who works in psychology, I've learned to say that. It's none of my fucking business. If I'm sat opposite a girl and she's telling me about her childhood trauma, she's been rude or she's been outrageous, maybe not to me, maybe I watched her being rude to somebody else, and she's telling me about her childhood trauma, I just say, it's none of my business. It's not my fucking problem. What? But you're into psychology. It's still not my fucking problem. If you need a therapist, you get up off your ass, you go find one, you pay for them, and then you go and see them consistently. I don't want to hear it. It's nothing to do with me. Sounds cruel, but that's only because we're dipped now, decades long, in a cultural ideology that says we should all be psychotherapists for everybody. No, we fucking shouldn't. Absolutely not. If you have a problem, because I respect you, but you have an anger management issue, I'm not helping you with your anger management issue. You go fix it on your own as a man. I'd say that to a woman. On your own as a woman. As an adult, go get that fixed. I don't want to hear about it. Don't want to hear about it.
So when your friends come to you, obviously, for advice and whatnot, is that what you always say to them?
I can show you the text if you want. I'm a terrible cunt. I'll be like, no, I am. Because I've done all this for years. And I just say to them, so I had one of my oldest friends that I used to do the door with. He tried it on with me a couple of weeks ago. What they're doing is they're asking for attention and they're asking for me to commiserate. And I just say, that sounds like a job for a therapist. I'm not a therapist. Your mates are not your therapist. Your girlfriends are not your therapist. Your mum's not your therapist. If you need therapy, fucking pay for it, you minge bag. Get your hand in your pocket. You can get them on Zoom for like 40 quid an hour.
There's one just down the road where you can just go and put some weights on the bar and just see.
Tell you what, best therapist I've ever had. You know, there's real research that came out recently for that. It said, I haven't read the research yet, but apparently rigorous physical exercise helps us to process traumatic memories.
Of course it does, yeah. I mean, like that is literally like 101 of dealing with stuff, at least as a man.
Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned the main sign being respect. You know that you should leave. If you don't have respect, you should leave a relationship. Yeah. I do agree. But are there any like hidden signs that you should leave a relationship?
Yes, I think it's going to be quite hard for people in this culture, especially younger people, to see it. But because another cultural coordinate that we've imbibed, along with everybody should be a psychotherapist for everybody else, which is just fucking delusional, degenerate nonsense that's going to ruin everything and is ruining everything, is there should be no boundaries. Boundarylessness is good. Wrong. Boundaries are good. Politeness is good. Politeness is a boundary that protects you from me, so that you know, in a relationship, where two people in a room, you've no idea what I'm thinking because you can't see inside of my head. You've no idea what I'm feeling because you can't see inside of my emotions. So we have to be communicating in a boundaried, conscious way. So if the communication is very non-conscious, very impulsive and very boundaryless, that's a problem. That's a real problem. So boundary breaking type stuff shouldn't be tolerated. But a lot of young people in your generation, they wouldn't know they would struggle to know when their boundaries are being infringed on.
Not only would they struggle to say what the boundaries are, they would struggle to know when they're infringed upon, but then they would also struggle from what I've seen as well in modern dating especially, is that when you state the boundaries, most girls will not accept them boundaries. Like I'd say, like, you know, if you were to guess it, like, put it on an average scale, the average woman 50, 100 years ago would accept the boundaries because they were normal, they were reasonable. Nowadays, girls think that they have all these options, viable options, and they're not in reality they're not viable options. So that when they do hear your boundaries, they're like, well, Steve who I'm texting down the road doesn't have these boundaries, so do you know what, fuck you, I'll go to him. So boundaries are something that a lot of, like what I see, a lot of men, they just sort of brush over that fact. They just kind of think, well, I can't get away with it because my ex-girlfriend didn't do that, so I'm not going to have the boundaries in this relationship. Therefore, that relationship's doomed before it's even begun.
Yeah, there's a massive male mental health crisis. A lot of men walking around with dead eyes, and the male unaliving rates are through the roof, and it's really, really bad. What you're alluding to is an asymmetric power dynamic, and it absolutely is a problem because, yes, I agree with you. I do think a lot of what women think their options are delusional, but it is still in reality easier. So she could pick up her phone and be having sex with the next person faster than the hottest guy
100%.
the hottest, richest guy she can still do that. So it is a power asymmetry. We had that when I was younger. It's just nobody did that. You just wouldn't.
You just had basic respect for yourself.
And it's not even that people weren't promiscuous or they weren't. Sometimes people would be promiscuous and sometimes people would cheat. But the baseline now just seems very crude and very vulgar and very bullying. Do as you're fucking told or I'll fuck your mate. What the? Settle down. It's like, could we talk first? And it's very. So there is like a ramping up of the aggression in the dating space that, yes, would probably make men wary of setting boundaries, but I would say to them, weigh your soul against it. Weigh your soul against it, because it's you're saying what you're basically saying is, for sexual access to a person who's now just proven to me she's not a very nice person and doesn't really respect me, I'm going to give up my soul. Well, that's a poor choice.
Poor price to pay.
Yeah.
But what I did notice, it was interesting, you said obviously when the girls text a guy, they could go and sleep with the guy. Because we've had a lot of girls, like, not necessarily say that they did that, but they think that the options in their phone are viable options in terms of, for example, I had a girl on once and she was saying that she was not a new mother, but she'd had a kid who was 3-4 years old. And I was saying, well, has that like decreased or increased your dating options? Because we were talking about, when you have children, usually dating options go down. She said, oh, well, it's actually increased them. I goes, what do you mean by that? She goes, oh, because I have loads of people blowing my phone up all the time. But I was like, the difference is that you could go and sleep with those people, but would you ever get a relationship out of those people? And that's the thing where she completely missed the point in terms of, she thought, oh, well, because I can sleep with these people, that I can attain them long term.
Which is really, really strange, speaking as an older guy, because there wasn't any women I was aware of when I was a young man who would brag about the fact that they could be ridden by a creature called a man, who in every country on earth, we have to create rules to stop these creatures called men from fucking animals and corpses. The fact that a guy will it's not a flex that a guy would have. Yeah. It never was. But then in the last 15 years, it's become a flex. Loads of guys will bang a cow if you give them half a chance. Like the fucking sheep. We literally, not all men, not all men. I hasten to add, but every country in the world has laws that says, please don't fuck animals and corpses. It's not women generally, it's men.
Well, I don't know.
Well, that's, He was about to, admit he's seen a few videos. I don't know about that, lad. So to me, that shouldn't be a flex, and it's weird that it's become a flex. And I've heard women in their 30s and 40s use that as a flex. So like, well, there's a 25-year-old PT here. He'll have me, and I'll go, but I don't know how far. It's like wanking into a sock. What do you think it means to him? He's 25. Like, of course he's going to... Yes, he'll fuck you instead of having a wank. That's not a flex. It's not proof of... And it's almost as though... it's almost like a role reversal where I see some women acting like chauvinists, but chauvinists from the 1950s. Not chauvinists from the 1980s. It's like this weird... I can get loads of broads. I can get loads of dudes. And I'm like, who are you role-playing as right now? It's not impressive. It's not... It's...
The biggest put off as a man, hearing that from a woman.
That's the other thing that concerns me, is women don't seem to... They seem to have forgotten what puts men off.
I was saying this literally 2 days ago to a friend.
So context in which I had it a number of times recently is when I attempt to date and women are flexing about how many men they've been with in the last month. And I'm like, what planet are you from where you think I want it? The fact that you've done that, well, you know, this first date stuff. So like, whatever, they're telling me like, yeah, I did this and I fucked this guy and we did. And I'm like, I'm the last person you should be saying this to. So you said you had the same conversation with your mate 2 days ago.
Yeah, I was talking to Reese about this the other day about how girls will tell you experiences they've had up front
without you asking them, right?
Like unprovoked. Yeah, like I've not had it many times on a first date because usually I've vetted that early on, but I've seen girls in clubs or I've seen girls, you know, like on uni nights out where they'll tell me something completely unprovoked, and immediately, do you know, like how we were talking before about how, you know, when a guy talks to a girl, you know, you have the girlfriend category, sex only category. She just puts herself straight in that by saying, well, on holiday once I, you know, banged my boyfriend on the front of a boat, and I'm like, well, immediately, I don't want to be. You're never going to be a girlfriend now, but you know what? I'll hang around a little bit for this.
It's really, really strange because you couldn't get that information from a girl when I was younger. Like she would go to the grave. She might tell her best friend or something, but she's not going to announce it. She's certainly not going to tell her boyfriend, and she's not going to announce it up front to a stranger or on date 1 or date 2. It's really there's a strange inversion that's gone on, and I've noticed the same thing. You know, and I'm getting information from women, and I'm like, obviously, I try to be rational and think psychologically, and I'm like, I wonder what you think that's signaling to me. Because, recent example, this girl made it clear that she wanted to be with me and that she wanted to have a child with me. But she made that clear to me after 2 days of telling me all of her sexual exploits. And I was like, well, I can't... You know what you want. Yeah. Why would you piss in the punch?
Exactly. No, exactly.
Why did you tell me all that for?
I was thinking about this and thinking, do they actually know what they're doing? But because they've got away with it that many times, they conflate them getting away with it to what they think that we want. Does that make sense? So like because they've not been challenged on it prior with, you know, maybe however many partners, they then think that that's acceptable. Whereas when a girl has done that with me, I've said, that's the last thing I want to know. And you can see it kind of like, she's like, oh, fuck. So she understands it then.
Yes.
But do you think that's a part of it where she gets away with it that much that...
It's a part of it. It's a part of it for sure that it's continuing to happen, but it doesn't tell us anything about what the root intention is.
Yeah, true.
Because I don't do that. Yeah. So I am a man. She's trying to act like a man. I am a man. I'm not going to tell... Like, we just didn't do that, and I'm not going to change the way. It's weird. Why would I tell you about I'm here with you now because I like you. Do you want me to fill your head with imagery of me with? Not that long ago, there was a girl going through my phone, through my photos, and I was like, "Do you want to have an argument?" She was like, "No, I'm just looking at your photos." I'm like, eventually you're going to see something you don't like, and you know that. You're playing Russian roulette with my iPhone. Please give me the phone back, but I didn't want to get into an undignified wrestling match. I wanted to use reason. I said, just give it me back. I'm not going through your phone. Don't go through mine. You know you're going to see something you don't like. She kept going until she found something she didn't like. And I'm like, well, who's this? Yeah. It's got nothing to do with you. Look at the date. It's 4 months ago. It's nothing to do with you. Why? What are we? So on the one hand, you get this like super flexy, I've shagged all these guys thing. And then that switches into Gestapo interrogator. Have you ever had sex with someone? You disgusting. Yeah. And I'm like, I was literally with her and I was going, okay. I started to make a joke out of it. We're speaking Spanish, and I said to her, "Listen, before you, I'd never even put eyes on a woman. I was a virgin before our first night together." Like trying to make the point. I'm a 47-year-old dude. You think I'm hot? Do you think it's possible? Maybe other women in my life have thought I was like, what did you expect? What? And she was furious with me. Like she was really, really angry. And I was just thinking, so it's okay for you to have had multiple she'd had like 5 mini relationships inside of 6 months. I didn't want to know any of this. She just told me. But for me to have been seeing a girl 4 months ago, well, you have disappointed me. I'm like, I don't know what rules we're playing by. I don't know
what
what
she's done there. She's like flipped the script almost. Because in my experience, girls can get over the fact that you've had experience, whereas guys can't get over that. Like we've just talked about, like, you know, if you know a girl's had experiences, can't get over that really.
So I brought that up. So we managed to get through this, and then we went for dinner the next night. And I said it's different between men and women, because if you find out that I've been very promiscuous, you wouldn't give a shit. And she said, no, I absolutely would. I don't like it.
Lie she'll tell herself.
And then I'm like, but then if you don't like it, if I did it, why are you telling me that? None of this makes sense. And so you know, I did the 14 months of celibacy.
Okay.
14 months.
Was this recently?
Yeah, I just broke it with the girl I'm telling you anecdotes about. And it really, really wasn't worth it. I was like, I should dip my toe back in the dating pool. And it was just as good. The reason why I stayed out for 14 months, I was like, I don't understand what any of you are doing. I don't get the rules. I don't know the game. You say this, you do this, everything is upside, and I just find it dysregulating. I'm quite sensitive. So I'm like, this is just upsetting. But then after 14 months, I was like, come on, let's get back in there. And then, yeah, the girl's telling me about all the guys I had sex with and going through my phone until she finds something she doesn't like. And I was like, this is exactly why I don't do this anymore.
Like, even because I'm only 28, so like, even from my 18-year-old self to now, the game has changed massively.
Yes.
So like, as you're trying to study it, the test is changing.
Yes.
That's the way I feel about dating. So I can only imagine how that is with you.
Yes. So that's a really good point. I said that to one of my friends the other day who was berating me for not having a relationship. And I actually used that date. I said, it's 2025, because he's been married since we were like 22. I said, between 2025 and 2015, it totally changed. And from 2015 to 2005, it was unrecognizable. So from when you were last dating, mate, to now, I swear on my life, you have no idea what it's like out there. It's a madhouse. It's just rampant lunacy. And he was like, oh, can't be that bad. And he's slightly jealous because he's thinking, oh, it must be really good fun.
Yeah, I've talked to many men who are like, you know, probably aging from my mates who are like same age as me to, you know, 30, 40 years old. And I've said to every single one of them when they've said the same thing to me, I was like, mate, if you were like, you have a beautiful wife, whatever, kids, whatever, but if you were single now, you would understand how different the game is to the time that you met your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever.
I can't talk to anyone about it. The only people I can talk to about it are lads your age and younger.
Yeah.
Because
35-year-olds don't get it.
No, they think you're lying, or they think it's just me. They'll be like, "Oh, that's you being a fucking weirdo." I'm like, I am a weirdo, but I swear to you, it's really, really strange. It's really, really strange.
So, say you're giving advice to an 18-year-old who's about to go on his first date. How do you
join a monastery?
How do you spot a narcissist on a first date? What some of the things you might ask them or tell? I
can't. I mean, I think for me, it takes quite a lot of exposure to someone. But what would be a telltale sign? So for a man with a woman, it's going to be different. This answer will be gendered. A man with a woman, if she doesn't ask you a single question about you or your life, he just rolled his eyes. He's heard this one before. He's lived this one before.
I've lived that.
Not one question about your life, is visibly bored and even starts yawning when you start talking. Just rigidly self-obsessed. These are not displays of narcissistic personality disorder necessarily, but I think we can say, look, you're dealing with an egomaniac. And she's mainly concerned with herself. So, like, just either accept that that's what you're dealing with and take it for what it is, or walk away. So that would be a bad indicator if I was advising an 18-year-old man on his first date. For a young woman, I would say be very, very careful of guys who lavish a huge amount of attention on you and are interrogating you about your life. So men do the opposite. So you'll hear in the narcissism space online, they'll say there's a love bombing phase.
Yeah, I was about to say that when you said
It's for women. It's for women. I've never been fucking love bombed in my life. I would, frankly, I'd love to be love bombed.
I'm about to say I'd marry the girl that love bombs me.
Yeah. And I'd be like, she's a pathological narcissist. Don't give a fuck. She showed me some attention at last. I'll live with it.
When we've had girls on the podcast before, that's something that a lot of the girls can't get their head around, is the fact that men don't get the same attention that they do. Like for example, like I'd say I'm an average looking guy, very average, but you know, when I've been out in the past, I've probably been approached 5 times. I'd say that's pretty high.
That's high.
Exactly.
That's super high.
I say that, and then these girls just can't comprehend that. They're like, what? That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And I'm probably counting like times that, you know,
the waitress came over and asked for the change.
yeah, and she lingered a little bit. And I'm like,
she's into me.
That's probably like highballing, yeah. And honestly, they can't comprehend. They're like, we get that in a fucking night. And they're like, yeah, I know. Like, that's just the life. That's the life of a man.
There is a kind of a solipsism that can set in, I think, especially if they're young, if they're good looking, and they're not really interested in knowing what other people's experiences are like. And particularly not, there are some women now who really, really hate men. They really don't care. They don't want to know what your experience has been. They're not, it's just doesn't interest them.
I did see a thread on Reddit the other day, and I thought I'd run it by you. So the statement is, having sex in front of a mirror makes you a narcissist. Is that true?
Then I am a narcissist. Filmed it, used multiple mirrors, multiple angles. I don't give a fuck. I am a narcissist. No, that's nonsense. I'm just curious. I'm just very curious and voyeuristic.
So how would a narcissist see sex? Would they see it differently than the average person?
The only thing that we know in the clinical literature about narcissism and sex is it comes with sexual paraphilias. So there is sexual oddity typically, but the sexual oddity could be asexuality, hypersexuality, sadism, masochism, foot fetish. It's
a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, and nobody really knows why. There's a mate of mine who's a professor of evolutionary psychology, and I asked him about it, and he said sexual paraphilias correlate positively with stress. So if the person with narcissistic personality disorder is very, very anxious about acquiring narcissistic supply, they're presumably living with a lot of stress, and that will lead to the sexual paraphilias.
What's the relationship between narcissism and cheating? Like, are narcissists more likely to cheat?
100%, yeah. Because of one of the key components of narcissism, which is entitlement. They don't really see, and of course lacking in compassion. They lack compassion. They lack effective empathy. So I'm a narcissist. I have a girlfriend. I know that she loves me. And I know that if she knew I cheated on her, she'd be very, very hurt. But the thing that she doesn't understand is this girl's really hot. And that's the justification. Like, I had the opportunity, the girl's really hot. And then if I get caught, I'm going to say, well, you made me. Because, I don't know, I'll just make it up. I'll just be like, when you said, that made me feel, so I just felt to get my validation back. To feel like a real man, I had to go and fuck her, and you shouldn't bully me or something. That's how
I think it's funny when we've talked about cheating on the podcast before. I think women, like, obviously they say that cheating's the same, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but cheating is definitely not the same, at least from my perspective, because for a man to cheat, it's like a physical interaction. Like you said, you can see a hot girl, think, oh, she's hot, I'll fuck her. Whereas for a woman to cheat, it takes some level of emotionality, doesn't it? Some sort of relationship, or she needs to feel safe, secure. So like there has to be emotional things in place. So when I've said that, like I've said the statement before to a girl, to many girls, and said, you know, a man can be perfectly in love with a girl and cheat on them, and like sexually. You know, it's different if he's buying her things or, you know, providing for her, protecting her, because then that's where I would draw the line massively and say that the relationship is irrescuable at that point. And girls can never seem to wrap their head around that. They think that, oh, well, if I go and cheat on them, it's the same thing. And I always try and say, well, it's not really, because it's far worse. Like, because you've had to draw some emotionality in order to do that. What were your thoughts on that?
I don't know, because might be different depending on the age group you're talking about. The thing is, with your generation, people are becoming more and more, like men are becoming more feminized, women are becoming more masculinized. And so you're kind of becoming a similar entity. And so the emotional investment argument, I don't know if it applies. I don't know.
It's definitely getting less.
It's getting less.
100%.
This poor girl that I was trying to see recently. We were talking about cheating, and I said, "Do you think that there are certain types of men that women are more likely to cheat on?" And she said, "No, I think just all women cheat." And I was looking at her, I was going, "You are also in the category of woman."
Right, okay. Unless.
Unless you have a little surprise for me later. And so I was like, well, that's not great. That's not. And she was just of the attitude, all women cheat, all men cheat. There's nothing you can do about it. And I said, but how do you feel about that moving forward in a relationship where you're saying you want kids? And she said, what I don't know won't kill me. And I was like, that's really sad. That's really, really sad. How are people supposed to really know intimacy?
Just be in love.
Or be in love if there's no safety there? If at any moment, any ping or notification on your girl's phone could be from a guy that she will have sex with or is having sex with. The only thing, I'm sorry to say something so pessimistic, if I was your age or younger, the appropriate response would be to become an avoidant narcissistic psychopath. I'd have to teach myself not to care. And what I would do, probably, I'm not saying do this, I'm saying what I would mistakenly do as a young man in your position or younger, is I would just have a roster of 8 options of goals, and I would give one goal more attention one week and then switch her out. Because who am I supposed to connect to? If I actually connect to any one of them, it's like a game. Did you see the movie Reservoir Dogs?
I've heard of it. I've not seen it.
So there's a movie, Reservoir Dogs, a really, really good movie from the 90s. And without ruining it, there's an iconic scene at the end where everybody is pointing a gun at everybody else's head. And that's what the modern dating culture feels like. It's like whoever dies with the most options wins.
Right.
So whoever has the most ability, so the strongest person in the current dating market in any interaction is the one who can say, fuck you, I'm leaving, I have 6 options over here. That's strength in this battle that you're in. So why would you put yourself in a position of weakness? Narcissistic psychopathy is actually the solution to a very nasty, from games theory point of view, systemic problem, which is we're all trying to have each other off. It's only a question of who can have the others off the fastest and the quickest. Well, I don't want to lose. So, I see like it becomes like this downward spiral because everybody's doing it.
It's pessimistic, but it's the reality.
It's the reality of what we're facing today. And I would, and of course, we mentioned Chris Williams. Chris Williamson. This is one of his things that he's fixating on now is the potential population crash and the dating market. I mean, I think he's alluded to this problem as well, which is, and he's closer in age. He's closer in age to you.
Tall girl theory, he calls it.
What's tall girl theory?
Tall girl theory is where, like, a girl can't date someone less than 6 foot. So
right.
It goes in every category. He can't be less than 6 foot. He has to earn 6 figures. He has to have X, Y, Z. You've seen the TikTok where it's a guy in finance, tall, blue eyes, good looking.
I actually really like that song. I thought it was
kind
funny.
of funny, but then that like tall girl theory is that theory of like they have preferences so high that when you actually add these preferences up and then look at after having added all those preferences up, compare it to the population, you're talking less than 0.05% of men.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
Like women have such high preferences because they've come so far.
Yes.
But then men have just like stayed where they are, if not gone down.
If not gone down.
That's the issue.
So you'll have a dating marketplace, and it's no moral judgment. I'm only speaking engineering, systems thinking, where you will have a very, very small minority of men with a very, very high number of options, and that might be 5% or 3%, and then 97% of men with very few options or who will have checked out. They just won't even bother because there is literally no point in them even beginning to play the game.
I think the stats are the top 10% pretty much have all the women.
Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. And then, 80% of guys haven't had sex in a year and things like that. And so it's like people think that, when girls meet guys, they say like, oh, he's a fuckboy, they have all these names, and then they attribute that to all men. Whereas it's not. It's literally, 1 in 5 men, 1 in 10 men are the fuckboys who are fucking all the girls, and then the rest of them aren't fucking a thing.
There is some psychological research I saw recently, and part of the effect of why that is for some women, when they say men, they don't mean men, they mean attractive men.
Yeah, exactly.
So that when they say, oh, these men are all this or these men are all that, they're talking about that tiny portion of the population that are uber chads.
That they're attracted to.
That they're attracted to.
Yeah, exactly.
I even had a conversation with she was a friend of mine for a long time. She really upset me. 41-year-old. And we got into this conversation. She was saying some really weird things about men. And I was like, that's not men. That's, you've been shagging. The last guy she was with was like some handsome pilot for Emirates.
The elite.
Some, Uber Chad. I was like, that's not men. She went, well, who else would I be talking about? I said, we were in a busy street in Dubai. I said, these are all men. That's a man, that's a man, that's a man. I don't give a fuck about them. I was like, what? She said, they're ugly. Why would I give a fuck about an ugly man? I was like, these are humans. Fuck them. Are you fucking psycho? What are you talking about? 10 years ago, she liked me in that way, but I wasn't into her. She was too masculine for me. She was too butch for me. 10 years ago, I was overweight and wasn't taking care of myself, and I would have been in that category.
Yeah,
fuck you. You do not. I hate you. You don't exist. You're like an insect. I'm like, that's awful. I said to her, you have 2 brothers in their 30s who are. She's from a Balkan country. They're both bald and fat. You're talking about them, and she started to cry, and I was like, It's a psychopathic defense. It's a psychopathic narcissistic defense. And there are thoughts that are being thunken that nobody is challenging. And they're evil thoughts, literally evil. Like, I can't say about human beings that I don't want to fuck. They don't exist. Because,
You're
just
misogynist if you say that.
Well, but yes, I would be, except it includes men, because I don't want to fuck men. So actually, when you drill down to the number of human beings I want to fuck, I'm very particular. So most of humanity, I can assure you, would be dead overnight if I was the Thanos and it's like only the ones I want to fuck will live.
Snap the finger.
The world would be a very fucking quiet place, and there'd be like 20 sort of Balkan-looking Middle Eastern women left. Yes, yeah, they would be the only ones left. Short, evil-looking gypsy ladies that I like. And that would be the world. We'd all be fucked.
Oh, brilliant. Right, so we usually wrap up with the final 3 questions.
Sure.
More of a quick fire round. So,
yeah.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, my God. Thou shalt honour thy father and mother was never a particularly useful one. The worst piece of advice, I've had people advising me my whole life, man. I've gotten very, very, very little decent advice. So my comment would be most people haven't got a fucking clue what they're talking about, and it doesn't stop them from talking about it. Not one bit. The baseline state of humanity is chaos. Everybody around you is struggling. Every institution is held together with bits of glue and blue tack and is on the verge of collapse. And that's okay. And the correct way to approach the world and approach people, therefore, is with compassion. Everyone's fucked. They're riddled, and they're putting on the face and they're putting on the act, and they're trying to show you they're fucked. They're lonely, they're miserable, they're anxious. I know, because I'm in our modern culture, I'm a confessor. People confess to me. So I know how things are. So the right way, don't fall for people's bullshit and the facade that everything is great and people have got it sorted out. It's a fucking mess. And the people who are telling you, like the politicians, this is the right way to live, their personal lives are usually the worst.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful. Total hypocrites. So just talk to God. Return to God, my children. Spirituality is should return. Spirituality should return. We should let go. The material world can only offer so much. And we need a balance. You've got to have like a spiritual view of life. So
I guess you just answered it there, but what's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
the best piece of advice. I think somebody told me once to trust my instincts, and for all of I have had like addiction problems and mental health issues and stuff throughout my life, but actually my intuition is very, very rarely wrong, but I usually railroad it. I'll be like, no, you're just being crazy. You're just being paranoid, suppress. And then I'll find out, no, actually my intuition was right. So trust your intuition was some good advice I got.
And then lastly, what is the meaning of life?
It seems to be the case that the simulation that we are in, and it's highly likely to be a simulation, has a purpose, which is to deliver pressure and hardship towards a purpose, and the purpose is most likely the elevation of consciousness. And so we're in some kind of evolutionary crucible. So the purpose of life is to facilitate your own personal psychological and spiritual evolution, and the psychological and spiritual evolution of other people and of humanity, so that we can get out of this fucking hellscape.
Very interesting. And then what's next for you, and where can people find you?
There is a new project actually that probably will be of interest to your followers. You can find me by just putting my name into the internet. I'm on all of the social medias, Richard Grannon, but I'm starting a new project this week called Awakening Strength, and that is particularly for men who are the victims of female narcissists. That will be out by the time this comes out.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Richard. You've been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, mate.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Top man. Thank you.